The last part of this C tutorial is how to manipulate a file in C program. A file represents a sequence of bytes. So there are two types of files. One is a human readable file called text file, which is written with ASCII code. The other type is a binary file. For this file, it is usually human readable, and the content is constituted with binary code, which is 0 and 1. So when we want to manipulate a file, the first operation we need is to open the file. So we can open the file with this fopen function. And also we need to pass the file name into this function if the file is under the same directory. Otherwise, we need to pass the entire directory combined with the file name to it. Another parameter is open mode to tell the function that how to manipulate the file. To manipulate a file, we have numbers of open modes. First, let's see the text file. For this R, opens an existing text file for reading purpose. And for this W, it opens a text file for writing. If it does not exist, then a new file is created. So here your program will start writing content from the beginning of the file. And for this A, opens a text file for writing in appending mode. So if it does not exist, then a new file is created. Here your program will start appending content in the existing file content. And for this R plus, it opens a text file for reading and writing both. And for this W plus, opens a text file for reading and writing both. It first truncate the file to 0 length if it exists. Otherwise, create a new file if it does not exist. And for this last one, A plus opens a text file for reading and writing both. It creates the file if it does not exist. And the reading will start from the beginning, but writing cannot be appended. The open mode for binary file are exactly same as a text file. So we just need to add a B at the end of each mode. And when we finish the manipulation of the file, so don't forget to close the file. It is very important, similar to dynamic memory management. The fopen function is a file pointer which points to a memory space the operating system temporarily allocated for this function to hold the file content and load it from the hard disk. So when you finish the file manipulation, you need to close the file. So in order to release the memory space back to the operating system. Otherwise, it can cause the memory leaking problem. And also, all the content you just write into the file is stored in memory. So it has not been written back to the hard disk yet. So until you close the file content can be written back to hard disk. So don't forget, at the end of your program, use this fclose function to release the memory back to the operating system. In order to manipulate the file, there are numbers of functions we can use to write and read a file. So here we use the functions for a text file as an example. So if you want to know the functions for a binary file, you may refer the tutorial link down below to get more details there. And first, let's see the 3 write functions. For this fputC function, this one, write character C or integer to the current position in file fp, but usually we deem the integer as a character. And for this one, fputS, this function, write string S to the current position in file fp. And for this fprintf function, similar to printf function, but write to the current position in file fp instead of screen. Then let's see the functions to read a text file. For this fgetC function, we will read a character from the current position in file fp. And for this fgetS function, it will read up to n-1 characters from the current position in file fp. For this function, it will read a string into this buffer from the file pointed by the file pointer fp, but the maximum length of this string is n-1. So if you still remember how we manipulate the strings with the character array, so you will understand why it is n-1 instead of n, because we need to reserve the last position for \0. Remember that? And for the last function, fscanf function, similar to scanf function, but read from the current position in file fp instead of keyboard. So even though we have 3 functions for write and 3 functions for read, later you will know that the functions fprintf function and fscanf function are much convenient than others. There are 3 special files which are stdin, stdout, and stderror. When we use the fprintf function and fscanf functions, these 3 files can make those 2 functions perform just like a normal printf function and the scanf function. So first, let's see fprintf function. So when we pass stdout file into this function, so instead of write content into a file, the later formatted content will be shown on the screen, just like the normal printf function did. And the similar thing for fscanf function. So instead of read data from some file, when the stdin has been passed in, an fscanf function will read input from the keyboard. So here we have 2 functions which manipulate a binary file. So like I have mentioned in the previous slide, if you want to know more details or examples, so you can check the tutorial website. So if you still have questions, feel free to let me know. And then let's see these 2 binary file functions. So the first one, fwrite function, it will write this much amount of elements from the position of array pointed by ptr to the current position in this file. And the size of element is given by this one, size of the elements. And for the second function, fread function, it will read this much of elements from the current position in file, this one, to the position of array pointed by ptr. And the size of element is given by size of element.